Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of No One's Home. I'm your hostess with the leastest, Cecilia, Ceci, or whatever you like to call me, as long as it's not rude, because I will cry about it because I'm a very sensitive person. This week, I am going to try to do, if I can speak and gather my thoughts. My phone's on 27%. My laptop's at full battery. I've had a podcast visualizer rendering for the past 3 days that was finished or not finished, but then my computer shut down. I'm just having not necessarily a tumultuous week, but there's a lot going on behind the scenes, But this week I kind of want to do a short one, try to keep it 30 to 35 minutes, because anything longer and my laptop will literally shit itself. So if anyone really you want to support me, definitely subscribe, listen, all that good stuff. You can always listen to Project Tonic as well. That helps out a bunch. But before I get into what I'm talking about, if you've read the title, I am going to talk about Burnham's new special. Not a comedy special per se. I wouldn't call it a comedy special, and I think that's where a lot of people kind of went astray into this new one. But I'll talk about that in a little bit. This week, I wanted to mention that I am actually featured on blog.feedspot under Internet Culture Podcasts. I am actually listed on the top 50 of them, and I moved from 31 to 29. Huge ups to Anuj for dealing with me, because I 100% kept forgetting to email him back and keep mentioning it, because if I talked about it briefly, I think, in last week's episode, that I was on a bit of a hiatus from creating content because I feel like a failure, and we can talk about our feelings of failure and depression with what's going on, but I'll leave the link below. There's a bunch of other really cool podcasts listed on there as well. Very surprised. I'm actually listed on there. I'm sure it's mostly stats, because I did update my I did update my logo and things like that. Shout out to Canva, doing everything for free. But again, huge ups to Blog Feedspot for listing me as 29 on the top 50 Internet Culture Podcast, because I really just talk about anime and other nonsense. But let's talk a little bit about Bo. His actual name, and I learned this in the newest episode, is Robert Pickering Burnham. And I'm on the Wikipedia articles because who else would I trust? Am I going to read actual articles about this man that I've known and appreciated and adored for years on end? Probably not, because I actually kind of forgotten about him, because, and I feel like a lot of people had kind of forgot about Bo for a little bit, just because he had disappeared for a little bit. And we find, huge spoilers, if you haven't seen the new special, I would highly recommend, if you have a Netflix subscription, or, you can always find other ways of watching it or streaming it, wink wink, and I cannot say because I don't want to get in trouble with my sponsor. But yeah, I'd highly recommend getting into his stuff. His earlier stuff is a lot lighter, a lot fluffier, really showcases his talent, and he was one of the few kind of OG comedy YouTubers, I would say, because he did have all of his skits on there, and we see that he, in this special, is back in the room that he began doing his little songs and jokes and commentary on the world and things like that, and he's an extremely talented person. But yeah, he turned 30 last year, and he's turning 31 this year. Oh my god, he's married. Sorry, I'm reading on his Wikipedia page. I didn't know he was married. Good for him. Anyway, so let's talk about the newest special. The reason why I kind of watched it is because I saw, and I don't know why I keep listening to children on TikTok, because they're fucking children, and you can tell, because and here's the thing, I'm going to be a little harsh and be a little brash. If you're a child on TikTok and you happen to listen to my podcast, you don't have to listen to me. But also huge trigger warnings if you're going to watch this, or if you're going to listen to me talk about it, because I am going to talk about depression, failure, college, wanting to kill yourself, so on and so forth. If you have any negative feelings and you really don't have anyone to talk to, highly recommend calling the suicide hotline. Sometimes you really just feel like nothing's going good, and you really feel like on your last ledge, but definitely don't take your life. It's not 100% not worth it. And Bo as well talks about that in the special. But yeah, so back to the children on TikTok. There were these teenagers, children, young adults, whatever, were sobbing after watching the special, and I was like, okay, I guess I'll watch it. I need a good cry, I need a good come up and feel a little visceral, feel a little, just because I feel like I've been kind of tucking away my emotions a lot, and I haven't really been expressing how I've been feeling, and I've really just been ignoring a lot of the big festering problems that are in my life, which I often do because I'm an escapist. If there's a way that I can run away, I can do it. It's on the internet. And you 100% kind of see how Bo really, really takes that concept and run with it, because with the pandemic and with the corona beginning and everything like that, he was actually going to start doing stand-up live shows again, because he had been performing for a while, but he had been getting really, really awful panic attacks on stage, and it was just really not going well, so he couldn't perform. He took a hiatus for 5 years, and then last year, everything went to shit. He decided to maybe come back again, and then in January 2020 he announced that, and then March 2020 obviously everything went to shit and everything went to failure, and so many countries failed to protect its population. But that's besides the point. We're talking about Bo and me and Bo, besties in mental illness and shit comedic taste. I kid. Bo is a very, very talented person, and you should 100% support him. What am I even getting at? Yes, so these children were sobbing and were like, oh, like, don't watch this when you're in bad mental place and stuff like that. And I say it in a mocking tone, but, like, I completely understand where they're coming from, because I want my podcast to be a safe space. I want Project Talk to be a safe space. If I'm going to talk about serious things, I want you to know beforehand. I don't want you to go into a panic attack. I do care about the listener, the viewer, and stuff like that. Also, sorry there's no visualizer for this week. I am still trying to render the last week's episode, and it's 50 minutes, and again, my computer is shitting itself while trying to render it. So apologies for that in advance. There's not going to be a visualizer this week, but I will try to edit it, make it a little bit more atmospheric, kind of like the We Don't Suck podcast, kind of a little bit more depth in the audio, I'll say, and visuals as well. I'll include some clips from the trailer and some of his older stuff, and maybe have some ambient noise in the background. But furthermore, look at me talking like I know what I'm talking about. I don't know what I'm talking about any week that I'm here. So these kids were like so distraught, and I was like, okay, let me mentally prepare myself. Let me get my protect my brain and stuff like that, because as tough of a bitch as I am, and as much as I complain about a lot of things, I am a little sensitive. Most tough cookies are. Most Sagittarius, we are insane and awful on the outside, but we have a sweet, soft center, kind of like not banana bread, things that are crunchy on the outside and soft on the inside, like a bagel, okay? Sagittariuses are like bagels. So I watch it, and I am more or less kind of enjoying it. I mean, I do 4.5 out of 5. It's a good special, but I think where like the kind of the marketing for it, and at least on Netflix's end, because even in the description of the special itself, it says that it is a dark comedy special, or just a comedy special in general. And I wouldn't say that it's there is some like not overbearing, what is it, kind of a overview of comedy, kind of like a commentary on it, how like, oh, we shouldn't be joking about things right now, but we should, because we can lighten up. And and the first, literally, like, I think the first number that he does is like, oh yeah, like, we white men need to joke about everything, and we need to save the world with comedy. And that's kind of the introduction to the rest of the special. But it's a little somber, and it's a little not necessarily on the nose, but you can kind of tell that he really was like on his last ends of like mental health, and really, really in a dark place, trying to get it done, but make it really well. And it's edited and produced and masterfully done. It is so well done. I could never, even in a million years, think of producing something with that level of skill and with that level of love, because you can tell the time that he took it. I think he took a whole year, or a little over a year, to finish it and edit it and all of that good stuff, because everything is done by him. He's literally a one-man show. The only production credit on there is his producer, Josh Sr. Everything else is done by Bo. He's a very, very talented individual, as I said before. But it's very, very somber, very dark, and again, not necessarily on the nose. Sorry if I'm repeating myself, but I really couldn't put my finger on why this didn't feel comedic, or why I didn't really enjoy it as much as I usually enjoy everything else. And I think it's because like the bite of corona, or like just the everything experiencing, going from like pre-pandemic to pandemic, to quitting my job and then not being employed for a month, and then trying to do work from home, and then it making my mental health even worse, and then now being at the bakery and stuff like that. I think it kind of broke my funny bone, or just made me look at everything in a lot more serious light. And even though I was kind of looking for a relief and looking for that cathartic feel in this special, I never really got that, and I'm sure it was made for people to feel introspective, because he does talk about how not everything is about white people when we talk about the injustices that are going on currently with freeing Palestine, AAPI injustice, and BLM, and all those movements that are pretty much all came to a head during the pandemic and still ongoing right now, and how a lot of white voices try to center themselves around that. But he reiterates during, I think, the second or third song, what is it called? This Is How the World Works. Yeah, that one. I'm reading the Wikipedia trying to gather my thoughts, because I had a lot of thoughts and I didn't have a lot of thoughts, but with that one, he basically says to not center yourself around it and realize that it's not about you, but you can try to help with your white privilege and things like that. And that's a good message to say, because I know a majority of his audience is the similar people to him, young millennials to middle-aged millennials that are white men who think they are the peak of comedy and probably have a TikTok account. But yeah, it's just it just didn't hit the same as much of his other specials, because when he did Make Happy was also released on YouTube. And you can tell that it's a lot more, I don't want to say uplifting, because his style of comedy has always been musical, commentative on our regular behavior as humans and how it's shitty, because he also does have a number on texting and how typical it is for like men to just not take good dick pictures, and it gets hot and heavy, but then you can ruin the mood just as fast. Also, sorry if you have misophobia for like the weird mouth sounds that I'm doing. I don't know. There's just a lot of saliva in my mouth. I don't know what's going on. But it's a beautiful, dark, cinematic, almost masterpiece, I would say. Because you can really, really see his frustration with himself. And I 100% feel that with how I feel like everything that I've done is like slightly better than some bigger YouTubers. But then when I look at my audience and I look at my numbers, it just feels like I am not deserving of an audience, or more or less that, like, because a lot of people say that YouTubers and content creators and influencers, whatever you want to call them, are all narcissistic, and they think that they're special and they think they're God's gift to the universe and stuff like that. And I definitely can see that with certain YouTubers. Cough cough, if you're one of the people that I know online, you specifically know who I'm talking about, who think she's the hottest shit that hit the pavement, but really she's just hot shit, you know. Good burn. I really like that. Sorry to pat myself on the back. I don't mean to suck my own ass, but I think that was a good one. A lot of them towards the peak of their fame definitely kind of get that weird god complex. And I just watched Carson Rehnquist's, sorry if I mispronounced your name. I know you're not listening anyway, but he did a very, very good commentary on older YouTubers, and in Andrew Garfield's weird movie about called Mainstream, where this girl who works a dead-end job at a comedy club uses this one guy to skyrocket him into YouTube frame, and she becomes a manager, and it helps her get out of that job and stuff like that. And it really is an interesting, I guess, like third person observation on how really insane being a content creator can be, and how kind of in your face it is, and how really it is insane, because you have these regular people on TikTok and Instagram and YouTube, and then the next day or within the next couple months, next year, they are at 1 million, 2 million, 3 million, getting all of these ginormous business deals, things that they could have never imagined. But then you still have these smaller creators who have smaller dedicated audiences and are striving and have the editing and have all these good stuff, but it's just the algorithms or whatever, and we know about the algorithms. They all favor these skinny white people, and I hate these videos that are like, oh, you can grow your channel in the next month and do da-da-da-da, but you really have to see about one, who's making these videos. Typically, they're smaller, thinner people, usually men or women, typically, I don't mean to exclude any trans or non-binary bodies, but it's usually these people who already have kind of mediocre to high-end success, and are trying to give these tips to you, and really, they don't really factor in one, personality, because most of the people have the personality of a paperclip, and my big toe has more charisma than some of these bigger TikTokers and YouTubers. And again, this is not to suck my own ass, but this is just what the observations that I've seen, and how I feel like everything that these people or that are giving you these tips or whatever, kind of are just talking out of their ass, because you really can't give the same method of success to people who were on the platform years ago, because they had an initial hand in founding the platform, but they also had some form of charisma. But now all you have to do is be thin, be mediocrely to extensively attractive, and make very, very bland content, like, and here's the thing, I love what I eat in a day. But if you were like to talk about that with like friends or whatever, unless they're talking about food, who cares, right? But it's because of the weird parasocial relationships that these people have with their audience that they want to know every single detail. They want to know when your last period was. They want to know what toilet paper you wipe your ass with. They want to know where did your mole go from your right cheek or whatever, or what happened to that person you were talking to 4 or 5 weeks ago on Tinder or whatever, so on and so forth. But again, I'm rambling, but I highly recommend watching the Karsten Runkrust video about mainstream, because I feel like that kind of goes hand in hand with this current special that Bo Burnham did, trying to like retract whatever point I was trying to make, because I really didn't make any points, but how kind of they're both a commentary on current content creators and really how ridiculous it is and how kind of self-centered they are. And again, I understand from an outside perspective, but it's all just a crock of shit, because at the end of the day, and if you've watched any founding or older YouTuber, and I mean kind of like the people who like Tyler Oakley and other people like that, who really had big success in the beginning of the early days and then kind of took a long hiatus off and maybe we're doing just podcasting now, like Grace Helbig and the other white lady, I forget her name, but everyone loves her. They're kind of just doing podcasting now and are focusing on doing other mediums of success, because it is draining. And as much as people say, oh, it doesn't work, you're kind of just talking to yourself and dealing with these insecurities, and it kind of comes to a head when you are someone who is trying to come back from being on a comedic hiatus and going from having this adoring audience to really just being yourself and you being your biggest, worst critic. Because in the middle of the special, you can kind of see where he's trying to give an update on like he's almost done, or he's just getting really frustrated with it, and he kind of just throws the mic on the ground and just grabs the camera really angrily. And I, as a creator and just as someone who is so crucial and critical on themselves, I 100% resonate with what he was feeling. And it's more or less like I enjoy the music, I enjoy the art, because he really does he bought so much equipment and was really, really dedicated to a lot of these characters, because in the middle of the special, White Woman's Instagram is and the branding and everything like that, there were some extensive shoots and some really, really interesting tricks that he did, and that didn't 100% resonate with me, but I can appreciate the time and effort that it took to do this, but when I realize now, as I'm talking to you about this, as you're listening, that it's when I watched this special, it was more like looking into a mirror of how critical and how difficult it can be to want to be funny or want to be entertaining in a time where should we really try to be funny? Should I really be that relief for people? Am I that talented or that such of a up my own ass that I think that I can make a difference? And then and I don't really think people who are haters are always going to say that, like, oh, they think they're God's gift to the world because they think that they can do this and do that and give people a sense of relief and stuff like that. And I don't want to say, oh, like, yeah, that's true. But again, like, those people who are already at the top of the top and are kind of narcissistic already think that they can do that. Like, those people who have an absorbently high rates just because brands pay them out the ass because they know all of their followers will sell anything out if they even like give a hint of it. I'm not necessarily talking about, well, yeah, those people or whatever, but it's more like a kind of like internalizing it. Like, do I think I'm even worthy of trying to make a difference in someone's world? And I think that's kind of what he really struggled with a lot in this, is like, should I even be doing this? Or 2, can I even pull it off? And 3, at what is it really going to cost me to get this done and get me finished. And I'm not saying like monetarily, no. Towards the end of the special, and even during, you can really see how skinny and frail and how old he's gotten, because when you look at even his like current profile, whatever picture he has, they don't even have a current one of him. It's from 2018. Like, and you can see how thick and kind of, I mean, you can still see in this picture how it depressed and kind of what is it called, hollow he looks on the inside. But in this special, you really see him at his lowest. And again, like, holding on to that like mirror metaphor, when I was watching this, it's like, damn, like, I really look and feel my worst. And I think that's why I couldn't enjoy it as much as all of these kids crying on TikTok. And I don't want to say it feels like a slap on the face, but it feels like more like a internal cry for help, that maybe I should not do this anymore. And I've wanted to give up. I wanted to give up on YouTube, and I wanted to give up on podcasting, and I wanted to give up on content creating for a while, because as much time and effort and work, because it is work, because again, you're dealing, and I just keep stopping and starting something. But the point I'm trying to make is, when you watch this special, and I highly recommend you do watch it, because again, it's really, really good. I just didn't enjoy it as much as I did, because I'm just so critical on myself, and seeing one of my most admired people at their lowest and be so self-critical that it really reminds me of myself, kind of took me out of the enjoyment of watching it. But what I'm trying to get at is that, what was I even trying to get at? I don't even remember what fucking point I was making. Anyway, whatever. Maybe if I listen, I'll like try to get it to the point of whatever I was talking about. But the reason that I wanted to quit, is because I tried so many times to, not necessarily go viral, but just like to garner an audience and to try to gain people's attention. But it seems like it all falls on deaf ears and blind eyes. And I don't mean that in a derogatory sense, but just in a metaphorical sense, because it sucks to see people who have the personality of a paperclip, a thumbtack, of nail polish remover, literally have major mainstream success, and you're still here trying to work your ass off at your regular job and trying to get your own stuff off the ground. And it really feels like a slap in the face. And I don't do this to be like, oh, support me, I say this more that if there are smaller creators that you enjoy and you love and you do want to see them get further success, appreciate them, comment on their things, share them with your friends, really, really do your part as a viewer. And I say this, and I've said this in other videos as well, that you as a viewer have so much power, because you are the one to get these people to success. You were the people who helped Bo get to where he is and have his mainstream success. You can help other creators get mainstream success. And maybe they'll lose a piece of themselves, but I would rather see people be successful and maybe a little bit more stressed out than as depressed and as awful as how I feel not succeeding. And I don't want to say that like, I see it as a very real statement, because every year I feel like quitting because I have nothing to show for it. I have nothing extra to add on my resume. I improve in my editing skills, but it doesn't improve in my YouTube analytics, because YouTube suppresses whatever other content that I may be putting on. And I'm not going to be like, get behind and be like, oh, like, YouTube is shadow banning me, blah, 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 blah. YouTube is not shadow banning me. It just has a weird algorithm that really only pushes mediocrely attractive, popular people who have the personality of not even my pinky toe. Sorry for saying the same thing literally for like 24 minutes or whatever. But back to the special. And I let's talk about the good things, whatever things that I actually really, really enjoyed about the special, because this is more of a serious episode, and as much as shit that I love and like to talk about my appreciation for other forms of media, sometimes you really just have to have a little bit of a reflection and introspection and be a little serious and critical. And that's, it's like, yeah, like it really hurts me to say these own things about myself, but I cannot keep lying to myself and say, oh, I'll make it big next year, I'll make it big next year. I'm turning 25 this year, and turning 25 is not as bad as turning 30, but again, like towards the middle or later half of the episode of the special, I mean, Bo feels very, very critical and very, very scared and worried about turning 30 and not having the special finished and still being in the room where he started everything. And then after that, we go into like a kind of a streamer bit where it's him in the same studio, only doing a couple things of like playing the piano, crying, and not being able to leave the house, because being inside and hiding away on the internet and creating things is the way that he actually started his whole entire career, because of escapism and wanting to be free of that room. But now he's back inside of there, and it's also another kind of a double metaphor or whatever, I guess, that we really couldn't. We've spent so much more time inside during everything that's been going on, and so it's good name, I would say. It works both ways, I would say, negatively, positively, and analytically, metaphorically, and whatever else words I can say that make me sound smarter. But my favorite part is when he talks about how he feels like shit, and he sings the best ballad, well, not necessarily a ballad, but a good song and performance called "Welcome to the Internet," and the overarching chorus is always like, do you want a little bit of everything all the time, I think. I don't know the specific lyrics, but it's something like that, and I can 100% tell you, as someone who's been on the internet since like the young tender age of 10 and 11 to now, in my young-ish adulthood, that is 100% the experience of what it's like being on the internet, from now until then, that you have access to everything. And even like not even being like on a laptop or a computer, you have access to everything on your phone on the internet. You can literally have someone at your house doing chores, you can make deals, you can buy drugs, you can sell drugs, you can buy animals, sell animals, watch people murder each other, watch people murder animals, legally or illegally, watch people fornicate, watch JOI, if you know what that is. Sorry, you can listen to people being NSFW. You can create fake characters, real characters. You can make a fake career, a real career. You can stream to millions of people doing a number of activities. It's just the amount of opportunities and limitedness we have at our fingertips kind of make everything that we do online feel minuscule in perspective. And I think the gravity of what the song is really saying resonated more than anything in the special with me, because of how hyperactive and hyper fixated I was on the internet. But I think that one really, really puts the nail in the coffin for how serious, but also how reflective and introspective this series, I keep saying series, this special really, really was. And when you are going to watch this, if you're still listening, I really, really want you to try not to have any distractions, try not to be on your phone, try not to like talk to one another or whatever, or like really focus and listen and appreciate it, because it really, 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 really feels like a slap in the face kind of as a viewer. But as someone who, I'm not gonna say I'm on the same level, but really, really feels what's going on in that special. It feels really visceral to see yourself as him and know what he's gone through, and know from like the highest of the lows to this lower of the low. It's really, really, really beautiful, insane piece of art, and it feels more like a short film, an art piece, than a comedic special. And I think that's where I also couldn't really get on board with giving it my full attention, because it doesn't have the feel of a dark comedy special. It has more of a watching someone that you love lose their mind and scream to the world, which is really themselves, and then broadcast it to the world. But that's really how it feels. And again, I 100% recommend watching this. Towards the end of the episode, towards the end of the special, we kind of get the finale, which is him really talking about how he really feels towards the end, and then bits and pieces and choruses of all of the previous songs that we've heard through the special. And then it ends kind of after we get this beautiful light show and these lyrics and stuff. He's able to leave the room, but then he's stuck out and he cannot go back inside, so he's stuck there. And then we hear the laugh tracks, and then it goes back to him being inside, and what we were seeing was on the projector. And I think the ending and the last bits of the special were my favorite part, because it really, really goes to show how awful and how sad it is to feel alone and be alone, but also be the person who's your biggest, worst critic, and try to put something together and make it nice and palatable to audiences, even at the cost of your own mental health. But again, wonderful piece of art. But if you are much more sensitive than I and are like the children on TikTok, don't watch this if you cannot be secure in your mental health, because it is very dark. As much as I'm not giving it credit, even if it sounds like I'm giving it a lot of credit compared to the other ones, maybe watch some of his older stuff. It's a lot more lighthearted. It's funny and it's dark, but it's not as dark as this one. So, yeah, I can't conclude properly because I think I'm still dealing with feelings of confessing things to deaf ears about how I've been feeling internally. But next week, hopefully, I may or may not have a guest, but I am going to finish Mushishi today, and you can look forward to listening and hopefully seeing my face. Maybe there's a little bit of ambiance, maybe there's a little bit not, I don't know. I have other things to edit, but hopefully I will be able to get everything to you on timely. I should have another older makeup video come up this week, and as always, Project Tonic Wednesday at 10 a.m. typically every Wednesday. But yeah, that's really my feelings and thoughts and kind of commentary on his newest Bo Burnham's Inside, as well as the weird world of influencer and content creator culture and how kind of backwards and not self-sustaining it is. But if you want to follow me, you can at isnosomnia, ISNOSOMNIA on Twitter, Instagram, and TikTok. You can also follow me on YouTube, Cecilia G. You can always follow on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and wherever else podcasts are available. Thank you for listening, and I will see you and hopefully get to see you next week.